Now, a mother of three from Florida had passed away just days after paramedics are alleged to have not taken her to the hospital in an ambulance. Why? Now, why wouldn't they do that? I mean, look, if you're having a medical issue, normally you get taken by paramedics in an ambulance in order to get to the hospital. I mean, they were there. Why didn't they take her? Well, apparently, according to the mother, they assumed that she could not afford it. Let me give you the story here. In the early morning hours of July 4th, Nicole Black had found her daughter, 30-year-old Crystal Galloway, unresponsive in a bathtub just 6 days after she had given birth to her son via cesarean section. Now, it turns out that she had a stroke. Now, stroke happens to women who, I should say it's more likely to happen if you've given birth through cesarean section. So that's a definite risk factor. And so when Galloway had regained consciousness, she complained about her head, right? Oh, my head hurts. I think there's something wrong with me. I passed out in the tub. Maybe you should call the hospital. Well, that's exactly what happened. She explained that Black quickly called emergency services and said that her daughter was breathing but had been drooling from the mouth when she was, of course, when she was passed out. Now, when Hillsborough County Fire Rescue officials arrived, Black claimed that instead of providing immediate treatment, they questioned whether the family could afford the ambulance ride to the hospital. Wait, that's not something that they're supposed to ask, especially if there's a medical emergency. Well, she said, my daughter begged for her life. The only thing they were worried about was my daughter had a new baby and she couldn't afford an ambulance. The medics then carried Galloway down 3 flights of stairs and continued to spend time talking about the cost of the ambulance, according to the mother. So then Black told ABC Action News she decided to transport her daughter herself. Quote, the whole conversation as the EMS drivers put my child in the car is that it was best for us. We couldn't afford an ambulance. My daughter begged for her life. She begged. And yet, they wouldn't take me. They wouldn't take her through the ambulance, so I decided to take her myself. Once in the hospital, scans revealed Galloway's brain was bleeding and that she was then airlifted to Tampa General Hospital. She then fell into a coma and passed away on July 9th, just days before her 31st birthday. So, look, so what this is a case of is alleged inaction by the paramedics, right? So they didn't do their job. And also the claims that we wanted to take an ambulance, but they kept talking about how expensive it was. Well, that's weird, right? Now, that, of course, led to an expensive airlift and ultimately her death. Now, let me tell you how much that ambulance ride would have been, right? And this is considering that there is that she was airlifted as well. The ride to Brandon Regional Hospital would have amounted to $600. So the paramedics not doing their job ended up costing more in an airlift and the ultimate price, her life. Yeah, real smart. Wow. There's more. However, the paramedics are disputing Black's account. According to the New York Times, she said she voluntarily offered to take her daughter to the hospital and only requested their help to move her downstairs after she had spoke with 2 sheriff's deputies who had first arrived on the scene. In a statement sent to People magazine by the Hillsborough County Fire Rescue, Lieutenant John Mike Morris said the paramedics would have transported Galloway had her condition seemed critical when they arrived. Quote, if the daughter presented that she was critical, I'm certain our crew would have highly advised that the daughter be transported by EMS. Now, here's the problem, right? I actually don't believe that. Why? Well, look, this is a similar story to what I've heard before. Now, I go back to the story of Amy Villala, right? Now, she recently ran for office in Nevada because her daughter, Shaylin, was turned away from a hospital, despite showing signs, if they had actually looked, of a possible blood clot. Now, that blood clot eventually traveled to her brain and led to her death. She was given what was referred to as a wallet biopsy. Now, guess what they both have in common? Both Shaylin and this woman. They were both part of the minority community. Who do you think this happens to more? Who do you think that people assume cannot afford an ambulance or cannot afford medical treatment or don't have insurance? Usually members of the minority community. So I do think this happened because, again, it's fairly common. I mean, they'll look at somebody's race and socioeconomic status and think, oh, yeah, obviously, they're poor. So we're just going to do as little as we can because we're not going to get paid for this. So just like in Shaylin's case, the medics neglected to do their jobs. And actually, there was an investigation that found that this was the case. Hillsborough County Administrator Mike Merrill told reporters that while the medics did a lot of things wrong, they found no evidence that the medics engaged in any conversation about ambulance costs. There were discussions between the mother and the deputies concerning costs, primarily driven by questions from the mother, which may have led to her conclusion or statements that she wanted to transport her daughter. My guys did a lot of things wrong here, and we take responsibility, but from the record I had, that's not one of the things that they did wrong. Why? It's because it would be absolutely fucking outrageous. Now, the county's investigation into the matter found that Morris and 3 other medics were in gross neglect of duty after they failed to properly check Galloway's vital signs. And again, nothing to do with the charge that they didn't, take her to the hospital because, well, it might be too expensive, right? Now, another one of their claims is that we didn't take her because she wasn't showing any signs of critical trauma. Now, if she had, then we would have definitely taken her in an ambulance, no questions asked. But then they undercut that by basically being found to have not have done their jobs correctly and not have taken vital signs. And how would you know if it was an emergency if you didn't check her vitals properly? Now, the inquiries also found the medics failed to have either of the women sign an informed consent document that showed that they declined transportation. So that's another thing that is against these paramedics, these EMTs. Now, based on the facts and statements obtained during the review of this incident by Human Resources, the information indicates that 4 fire rescue personnel did not perform their duties. The review indicates several Hillsborough County Fire Rescue Standard Operating Procedures were violated during this incident. No kidding. And that, of course, ended up in the death of this 30-year-old woman, this mother of 3. Look, man. Look, Black set up a GoFundMe page, right, after this happened, in order to raise funds to help provide for her 2 granddaughters, ages 13 and 7, and newborn grandson. She wrote on that page, this is a nightmare for me. I just buried my daughter. She was 30 years old and just graduated from college. She had her whole life ahead of her. You can tell me you're sorry. You can give me your condolences, but you still have to work this out with God. So there was a lot wrong here. This is a disastrous case. I mean, and the thing that I think back on is, what if this whole situation could have been avoided? Well, how? Well, nobody would be talking about potential cost. No one would even be having to ask about cost if we had a Medicare for all system. I mean, think about it, right? No wallet biopsies. No people assuming that you can't pay and therefore not treating people as they should. That wouldn't happen. That doesn't happen in other countries that have actual single-payer healthcare systems. But it happens here in America all the time, where people do not get the care that they need because, well, we just assume that you're not going to be able to pay, so we're going to give you half-assed service. And they say that we are the best, country in the world when it comes to healthcare. I had a conversation with somebody earlier, with a conservative, and it was like, "We're the best healthcare in the world." No, we're not. I mean, I used to say, yeah, if you can pay for it, but that's not even the case. Because even the care that we get, that we pay exorbitantly for, is not as good as some of the other countries that have single-payer healthcare. We do not have the best healthcare in the world We have some of the most expensive healthcare in the world, and it's literally killing people that they do not have healthcare. And it's situations like this that show you exactly what's going on and exactly what the problem of our system really is. Hey everybody, thanks for watching this video. If you want to see more like this, please hit the subscribe button below. And if you want to support truly independent progressive media, please consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/TYTNation.